there is a chilling truth that very few of us dare to face. A stroke, something that can take a life in just a few minutes, does not actually come out of nowhere. It silently sends out distress signals beforehand, even up to a week in advance. But the most frightening part is this: we have seen it, we have felt it, yet we chose to ignore it. No one would have imagined that seemingly harmless headaches, brief episodes of dizziness, or slight numbness in the arms or legs are in fact life or death warnings that the body is desperately trying to send out. Medical experts have repeatedly emphasized a stroke is not a random accident, but the result of a long, silent buildup waiting for the moment to erupt. Ask yourself, how many times have you felt that something was not quite right with your body, yet reassured yourself that it was just fatigue, just lack of sleep, just something minor? That very carelessness is quietly pushing us closer to one of the most dangerous silent death sentences today. Because a stroke does not give you a second chance, there is no opportunity to undo what has happened. The human body always knows how to speak up before things spiral out of control. But in the rush of modern life, we have learned to ignore those signals. A severe headache, a moment of losing balance, a brief instance of slurred speech, all are brushed aside until everything collapses completely. This is no longer someone else's story. It is a warning for all of us, because between the fragile line of life and death, sometimes it comes down to a single decision. Do you choose to listen to your body, or continue to stay silent and gamble with your fate? And right now, we will go through each specific sign, the red signals that the brain sends out before a stroke actually occurs, to see whether you or your loved ones might be standing in front of a danger that has not yet been recognized. Every storm begins with a very small sign, and with a stroke, the first spark often appears in a way no one expects. A headache. Not the kind of headache we usually experience after a long, tiring day, but a sudden, intense pain, as if something is tightening inside the skull. Those who experience it often describe it as the worst headache of their life. Yet, after a few minutes or a few hours, the pain fades, and they reassure themselves. Maybe it is just stress. Maybe just lack of sleep. Nothing serious. Medical experts point out that such unusual headaches are the very first signal that the blood vessels in the brain are having problems. Pressure is changing. Blood flow is being disrupted. Or worse, a vessel may be on the verge of rupturing. But instead of stopping to check, most of us continue working, continue living, as if nothing has happened. In reality, when the body sends out such a strong signal, we should stop immediately, ask questions, seek medical attention, but the opposite happens. The faster the pain disappears, the more careless people become. That temporary disappearance is exactly what makes the danger signal fade away. Imagine your brain as a control center and the headache as the first alarm bell. When the bell rings, it means something is going wrong. But if you choose to turn off the alarm without addressing the cause, then what happens next is only a matter of time. What is even more frightening is that not everyone can tell the difference between a normal headache and a warning sign of stroke. It does not need to last long. It does not need to happen repeatedly, just once. Strong enough, different enough, can already be a sign that a major event is approaching. And that is how a stroke begins. Not loudly, not clearly announced, but quietly creeping into familiar sensations, making us misunderstand, then ignore, until everything goes out of control. A headache is not always harmless. Sometimes, it is the first shot of a tragedy. And right now, we move to the next sign. When the body begins to lose control, when dizziness and imbalance appear, signaling that the brain is gradually losing its ability to function properly. If the headache is the opening shot, then the feeling of dizziness, of losing balance, is when the storm begins to take shape. Many people have experienced this, standing up and suddenly feeling lightheaded, taking a step and stumbling, everything around them spinning for a few seconds, and then returning to normal. And what is the familiar reaction? We tell ourselves, maybe it is low blood pressure, maybe just fatigue, a little rest and it will pass. But the truth is, the body is not always playing around. Medical experts point out that unusual dizziness, especially when accompanied by a sense of losing control, is a sign that the brain is having trouble coordinating. The vestibular system, the part responsible for balance, begins to malfunction. Signals are no longer transmitted accurately, causing the body to fall into a temporary state of disorientation. Imagine you are steering a ship at sea. Everything is running smoothly, but suddenly the steering wheel no longer responds properly. The ship begins to drift, to shake, and you can no longer control its direction. That is exactly what is happening inside your body when you feel dizzy due to the risk of a stroke. In reality, when such signs appear, we should stop immediately, monitor carefully, even seek medical attention. But the opposite happens. The faster the dizziness fades, the easier it is for people to ignore, and that brief passing moment becomes the most dangerous trap. What is concerning is that many people can still function normally after such episodes. Going to work, driving, even engaging in intense physical activity without realizing that their brain is sending out a distress signal. And each time it is ignored, the risk increases. When the body begins to lose stability, it is no longer a small issue, because behind that feeling of dizziness, there may be an entire control system gradually weakening, step by step, moving closer to a breaking point. And when that breaking point arrives, it will no longer be just a few seconds of lightheadedness, but a complete collapse of the body. And right now, we move into an even more dangerous sign, when the body not only feels unstable, but begins to lose the ability to maintain balance, making it difficult to walk, signaling that a real turning point is approaching. If dizziness is only a warning, then when the body begins to lose balance, that is the moment everything starts sliding rapidly toward danger. You stand up and realize your legs are no longer as steady as before. Your steps become unsteady, drifting off direction, as if the ground beneath you is tilting. Some people describe this feeling as walking on a path where every step could cause them to fall at any moment. And yet, instead of stopping, many people keep going, trying to act normal, as if nothing is happening. Medical experts warn that when the brain begins to lose control of balance, this is no longer a mild sign. It indicates that the central nervous system, the part responsible for coordinating all movement, is being seriously disrupted. Signals from the brain to the body are no longer accurate, leading to instability in every step, every small movement. In reality, when such difficulty in walking appears, we should stop all activities immediately and treat it as an emergency signal. But the opposite often happens. Many people continue to endure, continue working, continue daily life, even assuming it is just fatigue, lack of sleep, or aging. That very carelessness is quietly pushing the body closer to a complete collapse. Imagine, if earlier the body was only slightly shaking, then at this stage, the entire system has begun to lose real stability. And once that stability is broken, it only takes a small trigger, a brief delay, to bring the whole body down. What is frightening is that many stroke cases have passed through this stage, but were never recognized. The person can still talk, still function, but inside, the brain is already very close to its breaking point. Loss of balance is not just a symptom. It is a sign that the body is gradually losing control. And when that control is completely gone, the consequences may no longer be reversible. And right now, we move into an even more dangerous sign, when the body not only loses control, but begins to show paralysis on one side, a true death sentence that the brain signals before a stroke strikes. If the earlier signs could still be mistaken, then when the body begins to experience paralysis on one side, it is no longer a warning, it is a sentence. You try to lift one arm, but it does not respond. You attempt to walk, but one leg feels as if it is being dragged behind. The numbness spreads from the fingertips up the arm until half of the body becomes heavy, uncontrollable. This is no longer fatigue, not a lack of sleep, but a clear sign that the brain has been seriously damaged. In medical terms, this is one of the most typical signs of a stroke. When blood flow to the brain is interrupted, nerve cells begin to die, and the part of the body controlled by that area of the brain is immediately affected. That is why, in just a moment, half of the body can become completely paralyzed. What is frightening is that many people, when experiencing this condition, still try to endure it. They massage, they rest, they wait for the feeling to return, without realizing that every minute passing means more brain cells are dying permanently. The golden time to save a life is slipping away right before their eyes. In reality, when signs of weakness or paralysis on one side appear, it must be treated as an emergency immediately. No waiting, no hesitation, no self-treatment at home. But the truth is, carelessness and the mindset of, "let's see if it goes away," are exactly what cause many people to miss their chance of survival. Imagine the brain as the ultimate control center and each part of the body as its extension. When this center is attacked, part of the system will instantly become paralyzed. And once that paralysis occurs, it means the crisis has entered its most dangerous stage. This is the breaking point between life and death, where every delay comes at the cost of lifelong disability or even life itself. There is no more time for doubt, no second chance to make mistakes. And right now, we move into an even more terrifying sign, when not only the body is affected, but the ability to communicate, to speak, and to understand also begins to collapse, signaling that the brain is gradually losing total control. If physical paralysis is a visible sign, then the collapse of language is a direct blow to the brain itself, the center that controls all human communication. You want to speak, but your words are no longer clear. The sounds come out distorted, broken, not even forming proper sentences. The person in front of you looks confused because they cannot understand what you are trying to say. And even more frightening, you begin to not understand them either. Familiar sentences suddenly feel strange, as if you are hearing a completely different language. This is no longer a normal symptom, but a clear sign that the brain, the center for language processing, is being seriously damaged. Experts call this condition aphasia, one of the most typical signs of a stroke. When the area of the brain responsible for speaking and understanding is deprived of blood or injured, the ability to communicate collapses almost instantly. The person may still be conscious, still aware of their surroundings, but cannot express, cannot comprehend, as if they are trapped inside their own body. In reality, when this sign appears, it must be treated as an absolute emergency. But the truth is, many people mistake it for simple stuttering, slurred speech, or just fatigue, and that very confusion causes the golden time to slip away tragically. Imagine, you are in the middle of an emergency call, but the communication line is suddenly cut. You have information, you have awareness, but you cannot send it, you cannot receive anything back. That is exactly what a stroke patient is experiencing when language begins to collapse. What is even more frightening is that when this sign appears, it means the brain damage has already spread, no longer at the warning stage, but approaching an irreversible phase if not treated in time. Losing the ability to speak, losing the ability to understand, is not just losing communication. It is losing a part of yourself. And in the battle against stroke, this is one of the clearest signs that time is running out. And right now, we move to another sign, when not only words disappear, but the world before your eyes also begins to change, becoming blurred, even disappearing halfway, signaling that the brain is gradually losing its ability to process visual information. When a stroke begins to attack the brain, not only the body and language are affected, but even the way we see the world starts to change in a frightening way. You are looking at everything completely normally. Then suddenly, one side of your vision disappears. It is not completely dark, but blurred, distorted, as if an invisible curtain is covering it. You try to rub your eyes, try to adjust your vision, but it is useless. The world in front of you is no longer whole, but missing one half. This is a visual disturbance, an extremely dangerous warning that many people ignore. Experts explain that when the part of the brain responsible for processing images is deprived of blood or damaged, vision is immediately disrupted. A person may lose sight in one eye or see everything distorted, unclear. What is concerning is that this condition can appear very quickly, then disappear, making people think it is just eye strain or a minor issue. But the truth is, that very brief moment is the most dangerous trap. In reality, when sudden partial vision loss occurs, even for just a few minutes, it should be treated as an emergency signal. But instead, many people continue working, continue using their phones, continue driving, without realizing that their brain is sending one of the clearest distress signals. Imagine, you are looking at a complete picture, but half of it is erased. You can still see, but not fully, not accurately. And in real life, losing just half of your vision is enough to cause unpredictable consequences. What is even more frightening is that when vision begins to distort, it means the brain damage has spread, affecting not only movement and language, but also how we perceive the world. Losing part of your vision is not just losing the ability to see, it is a sign that the brain is gradually losing overall control, and if not treated in time, that missing part may never return. And right now, we move into the final signs. Symptoms that may seem minor, but complete the full picture of a stroke. When the body begins to experience difficulty swallowing, nausea, signaling that the central nervous system is being deeply affected. There are signs that seem very small, very normal, yet they are actually the final pieces completing the picture of a stroke, and more frighteningly, they are the ones most easily ignored. You feel difficulty swallowing. Eating is no longer as smooth as before. Each time you swallow, there is a sensation of blockage, choking, as if something is stuck in your throat. Many people immediately think of a sore throat or digestive issues, and then continue to endure it. Or another feeling, nausea, queasiness, discomfort in the body, as if it were a mild digestive disorder. You reassure yourself, maybe it is something you ate, maybe a stomach issue, a little rest, and it will pass. But the truth is, this is exactly where a dangerous mistake continues to repeat. Experts warn that difficulty swallowing and nausea, especially when appearing alongside earlier signs, are no longer simple issues. They indicate that the central nervous system, particularly the areas controlling swallowing, reflexes, and digestion, is being affected. When the brain begins to malfunction, functions that seem automatic also start to break down. Swallowing, a simple daily action, suddenly becomes difficult. The digestive system, normally stable, begins to react abnormally. And all of this is quietly signaling that a much larger crisis is approaching. In reality, When these signs appear, especially after a series of earlier warnings, we should take them seriously. But the truth is, precisely because they are so familiar, so easy to confuse, they are dismissed the fastest. Imagine if earlier, the body had already sent clear signals, from headaches, dizziness, loss of balance, to paralysis, language disorders, and visual disturbances, then symptoms like difficulty, swallowing, and nausea are the final pieces, completing the full picture of a stroke. No sign is meaningless. Every abnormal sensation is a message. And when multiple messages appear together, it is no longer a coincidence, but an urgent warning. If ignored, the price to pay could be an entire lifetime. And right now, we move into a deeper question. Why, even after repeated warnings from the body, do people still choose to ignore them? What is it that makes us unconsciously gamble with our own lives? At this point, a big question begins to emerge. Why is it that when the body has continuously sent clear signals, people still choose to ignore them? Why is a severe headache treated as something minor? Why are episodes of dizziness, loss of balance, weakness, or even slurred speech still not enough to make us stop? What is really happening behind that indifference? The answer lies within our own psychology. Humans tend to believe that bad things will not happen to them. A kind of illusion of safety that makes us think a stroke happens to someone else, somewhere else, not to us, not today. And that very mindset becomes the most dangerous shield, blocking out all warning signals. Not only that, the pace of modern life also pushes people into ignoring their own bodies. Work, pressure, responsibilities make us pre-vic with enduring discomfort. Pain can be suppressed, abnormal signs can be delayed, and over time, we develop a dangerous habit of underestimating every warning. In reality, when the body speaks, we should listen, but instead, we learn how to silence our own bodies, turning life or death signals into minor inconveniences, not worth attention. This is the core issue. Stroke is dangerous, but it is not the most frightening thing. What is more frightening is how people respond to it, not with action, but with hesitation, not with awareness, but with carelessness. Look back at all the signs that have appeared: headaches, dizziness, loss of balance, paralysis, language disorders, vision problems, difficulty swallowing, nausea. Not just one, but a continuous chain of warnings. Yet just one moment of neglect, one delay, can lead to irreversible consequences. Experts have repeatedly emphasized, in stroke, time is not measured in hours, but in minutes, even seconds. Every second that passes, millions of brain cells can die, and once they are gone, they will never return. The greatest enemy is not the disease itself, but human indifference toward life-saving signals. And right now, we move to the final part, where all warnings come together, a clear wake-up call. For each person to ask themselves, will you choose to act or continue to gamble with your fate? After everything we have just gone through, an undeniable truth emerges. A stroke is not a sudden strike, but a chain of warnings that have been sent out, clearly, repeatedly, and desperately. From severe headaches, episodes of dizziness and imbalance, to loss of balance, paralysis on one side of the body, language disorders, visual disturbances, and even seemingly minor signs like difficulty, swallowing, nausea. All of these are red signals that the body has been trying to send before everything collapses. But the truth is, the problem is not that the body fails to warn us. The problem is, we fail to listen. Just one delayed decision, just one moment of carelessness. The price to pay could be the rest of your life on a hospital bed, or even your life itself. A stroke does not give you a second chance. There is no undo, and it does not wait for anyone. Experts affirm that, if detected early, if action is taken in time within the golden window, many cases can be saved, even recover almost completely. But on the other hand, if ignored, the consequences are not only long-term disability, but also a burden on the family and the rest of one's life. Between 1 week of warning and a lifetime of regret, the distance sometimes lies in a single choice. Do you choose to listen to your body, or continue to stay silent and gamble with your fate? This is no longer just a story to hear and forget, but